My name is Emily Carter. I grew up in a quiet little town in Vermont, surrounded by maple trees, friendly neighbors, and warm memories. Life moved slowly there, like the breeze that touched the front porches in the early mornings. Among all the people I knew, there was one who stood out: Noah Bennett. Noah wasn't just the boy next door, he was my best friend since the age of 6. From building snow forts in the winter to selling lemonade in the summer, we did everything together. He always carried a backpack full of books and ideas, while I carried crayons and dreams of becoming an artist. Our bond grew stronger with each year, but we never called it love. Not yet. In high school, I remember how people used to ask, "Are you two a couple?" We'd both laugh and say, "We're just best friends." But deep down, I think there was a quiet place in our hearts where something gentle and unspoken lived. After graduation, Noah moved to Boston for college, and I stayed back to help my mom with her little bakery. We kept in touch, texting often and calling whenever we could. His voice always had a way of calming my worries. One day he came back to visit. It had been almost 2 years. I met him at the train station, and when I saw him, I couldn't believe how much he'd changed. Taller, a little more confident, but the same kind eyes. We walked to our favorite spot, the old bench under the chestnut tree near the park. He listened to my stories about the bakery, and I listened to his stories about city life. It felt like no time had passed. As we sat in silence for a moment, he said something that surprised me. "You know, Emily, I've met many people in Boston, but I never really connected with anyone the way I do with you." I smiled, unsure what to say. I could feel my heart beating a little faster. "Maybe," he continued, "some people are just meant to stay in each other's lives, even if they don't know what to call it." That night I couldn't sleep. His words kept echoing in my mind. Could friendship really turn into something more? Was this the start of a new chapter, or just a moment of emotion? Days passed and his visit ended, but something had changed between us. We started having longer conversations, talking about things we never had before: hopes, fears, dreams, and what we truly valued in life. One evening during a video call, he said, "Emily, if you ever think about moving to Boston, there's always room for you here." I laughed nervously, but my heart whispered, "Why not?" That idea stayed with me, and without really planning it, I found myself visiting Boston a few weeks later, just for a weekend. Or so I told myself. The city was new, loud, and exciting, but the most comforting part was Noah. One evening we were walking by the Charles River when he stopped and looked at me with a thoughtful expression. "I never told you this," he said, "but I think I started caring for you more than a friend long ago. I was just afraid of losing what we already had." The wind blew gently, and I could feel the warmth of his words more than the cold of the evening. I replied softly, "Maybe we've always had something special. We just didn't realize it until now." We didn't need to define it right then. All we knew was that something beautiful was beginning to bloom between us. Boston became more than just a city to me. It became a place where my heart felt lighter. I extended my weekend trip into 2 weeks. Noah showed me around his favorite coffee shops, bookstores, and quiet spots where he liked to read or think. We weren't rushing into anything. Our bond remained soft and steady, like the first light of morning. It wasn't filled with dramatic confessions or big moments. It was all the little things that made it special. I remember one morning we went to a small cafe tucked away behind an old brick building. He ordered his usual black coffee, and I chose something sweet with cinnamon. We sat there quietly sipping, watching people pass by. "Emily," he said, looking out the window, "do you think friendship can be the strongest foundation for something more?" I nodded. "I think when someone knows you fully and still chooses to be by your side, that's the kind of connection that lasts." He smiled. "Then I think we're already halfway there." After that day, we started spending more time together, not just as friends, but as two people slowly realizing they might have found home in each other. Still, we didn't rush. We talked a lot about values, about what we wanted in life, about how important honesty and kindness were. We didn't need grand gestures. Our journey was more about understanding, communication, and support. One weekend, We took a day trip to the countryside outside Boston. The leaves were starting to turn, coloring the roads in reds and oranges. We sat by a lake sharing stories from childhood. At one point there was silence, a soft, meaningful silence. Then Noah said, "You know what I realized? I don't just care for you, Emily. I trust you. And that's something I've never felt this deeply with anyone else." My eyes welled up slightly, not from sadness, but from the comfort of being seen and valued. That night, as we drove back into the city, I looked at him and thought, maybe this is how love truly begins. Not with sparks and noise, but with quiet understanding and patience. Eventually, the time came for me to return to Vermont. I needed to help my mom at the bakery again. Saying goodbye was hard, but it didn't feel like the end. We both knew something had begun that distance couldn't undo. Back home, things felt the same but also different. The town was still slow and sweet. The bakery smelled of cinnamon and vanilla. But my heart felt like it was stretched between two places. Noah and I kept talking every day, sometimes for hours, sometimes just for a few minutes, but his presence never faded. Then one evening he said, "Emily, I don't want to rush anything, but I know one thing for sure. I want you to be a part of my life, every day, in every season. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday I want us to share a life together." I sat in silence for a moment. The bakery lights were off and I was alone in the warm kitchen. But I didn't feel alone at all. I whispered, "Me too." From that moment on, we weren't just best friends anymore. We were something more, something that felt permanent. Months passed and life moved gently forward. Though we were living in two different states, it never felt like we were truly apart. Noah and I had built something strong, something that distance couldn't weaken. We started planning small things together, like which city would be best if I moved, what kind of apartment we'd like, what colors we'd want in our kitchen. These weren't just dreams anymore, they were soft plans growing roots in our hearts. One afternoon, while video calling from the bakery's storeroom, I asked Noah, "Do you ever wonder what our younger selves would think if they saw us now?" He laughed. They'd probably be shocked, and then really proud. It was true. We had grown together, not just in age, but in kindness, in understanding, in how we cared. And most importantly, we never tried to change each other. We simply made space. One spring morning, Noah visited Vermont again. But this time, it wasn't just a casual visit. Noah parented Austin 100. He asked my mom if he could take me somewhere special. She smiled knowingly. She had seen it coming, perhaps even before we did. He took me to our childhood park, the one with the old chestnut tree where we had spent so many afternoons. Beneath its branches, he looked at me, not nervously, but with a quiet confidence. "Emily," he said softly, "we've shared so many chapters of life, laughter, growing pains, discoveries. But I want to write every chapter ahead, with you." He didn't kneel down. There was no ring, no audience, no big show. Just honesty. "I don't know where life will take us or how it will unfold," he continued. "But I know that no matter where we go, I want to walk that path with you." Tears filled my eyes, not out of surprise, but out of peace, out of gratitude. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes to all of it." We didn't rush into a grand wedding. We planned a small ceremony in the backyard of my childhood home. Strings of lights hung between the trees, close friends and family gathered, and laughter echoed across the evening air. My mom baked the cake. Noah's sister played soft music on her guitar. And under the open sky, surrounded by memories and blessings, I married my best friend. We danced slowly on the grass. I rested my head on his shoulder and he held me with the same gentleness he always had. At one point he whispered, "Funny how life works. We spent years calling each other best friends." "And now?" I asked with a smile. "Now I call you home. Today, we still keep things simple. Weekend walks, shared books, late night talks. And every now and then we sit beneath that old chestnut tree when we visit Vermont, remembering where it all began. Not with a spark, not with a dramatic twist, but with a quiet friendship that bloomed into something extraordinary.